Hello and welcome to Island Artcast, uncovering the creative industry with me, Olivia Savage, as your host. Here we talk about all things art, and each week I'll be joined by inspiring max creatives to discuss creative careers as well as burning topics in the art world today to keep that creative mind of yours in action. Hi everyone and welcome back to Island Artcast episode 2. Today on the show I'm very pleased to have Chloe and Michelle with me, better known as the ladies behind the theatre duo Hello Little People. I can confirm that we are all sat together for the first time on the podcast, so that's great. If anyone's listening that's not on the island, we've now come out of lockdown and we've not made it quite to a studio, but we've made it to a space where we can sit together, so I think that's a good start.
You can see the sea, it's lovely.
Yeah, we've got a great view of the sea and the construction work going on. Hopefully they don't make too much noise for us today. Yeah, sorry if they do. So you're both in the studio today to talk about the big C word, of course I mean COVID, and its effects on the arts this year, and more importantly what we can all do to support the creative industry during this difficult time, from helping independent businesses to keeping the theatres and galleries and these other creative institutions alive. So I know all the talk at the moment is about COVID. You go on the news, you see COVID, and I'm sure there are times, I know I've had times when we're all in our heads going, can we just have a break and just not think about it for a day or something? But I felt it was really important that I dedicated an episode to the pandemic and how the creative industry has actually shifted in 2020 and is still shifting in response to the current crisis, but talk about it in a more positive sense rather than, you hear all this negative stuff, and sometimes you need to take a step back and think we can always make the best of a bad situation. So that's why I wanted to target this episode and see what it is that we can do to take from this positively. So today on the show we'll discuss the rise of independent businesses over the last year and why this has happened, what it means to perform without a physical audience, the long-term effects of COVID on the creative industry, so what happens next, what happens when we eventually do come out of all of this, and of course an important topic for us on the island is why we need to think beyond supporting just the Isle of Man as locals, and what we can do in our fortunate position where we're not in lockdown to help our fellow Manxies locally and across, and why we should stay aware of what's happening in the UK as well as just here at home. And then of course, as I do with every episode, I'll be chatting to Chloe and Michelle about their individual journeys over the past year and how they came to the point they're at today with their theatre company. So firstly, thank you both so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's great to have you both here. As I said to you both before you came on the show, I thought you'd be the perfect guest for this episode because your journey with COVID started in England and you both came home, and you've had to transition, and that's pretty much how this theatre duo was born for you. And you guys felt that connection to home while you were across as well. So with that, can you start by talking us through how Little People came about initially? I'm sure you both had quite the journey, so you can let us know how you got to this point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely, because we both, Michelle and I, were working as professional actors in the UK. So I was in London, Michelle was in Scotland, and we'd kind of worked together on the Isle of Man, but hadn't been really in contact for about 5 years.
Yeah.
So we knew of each other, but we were both on similar journeys, but very separate in different parts of the country. And when coronavirus hit, my mum forced me to come home. She said, get on a flight as soon as you can, as soon as you can.
Fine, yeah.
And I was like, oh, Mum, what's the big deal? And she was like, Chloe, you need to get home. And finally, after a lot of pushing, I listened to her and ended up back on the Isle of Man. So that was March time, and obviously we were in lockdown. The UK was in lockdown, and then in July, Michelle and I just happened to both want to meet up for a coffee, and we just went for a catch up. We're both here creatives on the island, and thought, actually, we've got lots in common, let's meet up for a coffee and an ice cream. And then kind of out of that, we just got chatting about how we wanted to make children's theatre over here, and how there was kind of a market for it, and there wasn't really anything that we had been experiencing in the UK professionally over here. And we thought, well, while we're here, let's get on a beach and do some shows for the public.
Aye, and then it's kind of snowballed certainly from there. I mean, the beach thing never actually happened.
The beach thing never happened. It kind of grew very quickly overnight, because really we were dead keen. We were like, we'll make a little show, we'll do it on the beach. We won't, like, no tickets, no, like.
Did you know you're doing it on the Isle of Man? You weren't in like a really hot country.
You can only dream. I remember that day that we met up for an ice cream was particularly hot, so I think our visions were slightly blurred.
Probably.
In that every day is obviously like that. And the beach thing was going to be great. Anywho, yes. So then from there, things snowballed, and we are still here. Post thinking we'd be here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, really thought that we'd just be here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and as everyone thought that coronavirus wasn't gonna keep going this long.
But you know, how lucky are we?
I know.
Yeah.
So what is it that you wanted to like achieve? Was it like you thought that there wasn't really many stories told through? Like for kids with these Manx sort of heritage stories and stuff?
I think Chloe and I, in essence, just wanted to have a bit of fun and wanted to share some creativity and explore what could be achieved on island and connect with the island community, because we hadn't really had a chance since, leaving the island to be back and create something completely original and new and offer it directly to the Manx public. So I think we didn't really have any preconceived ideas as to what we were going to do. Obviously we'd never actually directly worked with one another, particularly in creating something. So I think that was part of the journey, and really just exploring what could be available to us.
We both just wanted to get creative. I mean, like, the whole of the UK had kind of stopped, and we had stopped for so long in lockdown that well, certainly for me, like, I was itching to do something creative. I didn't really mind what it was, and then to find I was like, she'll do.
Yeah. No, I think both of us had similar kind of thoughts previously, hadn't we? And then just thought, oh yeah, she'll do.
She took you on.
Yeah. No, it's lovely to work with someone else, I think, rather than trying to achieve something by yourself. And because the two of us had lived and grown up on the island, you almost have this bizarre like Manx instinct, I think, that never really leaves or will ever change, I don't think. But that you can connect with the community in a way that perhaps those who haven't grown up here aren't as naturally inclined to do.
It's funny with that Manx thing, isn't it? I found that you grow up here and you live on the Isle of Man, you live and breathe the Isle of Man, and then it wasn't until I left that I became so proud to be Manx.
It's funny, so many people say that.
Yeah, as soon as I left, I felt this need to always tell my friends, no, the Isle of Man's a thing.
Yeah.
And I was always trying to tell them what
I
it
know.
was.
In Freshers Week, when I went across to university, it was like, where are you from? Oh my gosh, you're from an island. And then like all of these things I never had realised were quirky or were different about like living in the Isle of Man, like not saying the word RAT, things like this, that we have a ferry bridge, that we have horse trams. All of this came up and became a really big running joke throughout my whole time.
They start off by thinking you're really weird, and then it takes time.
So they always think I've been super weird.
Especially when we're whistling and saying
I mean, as you both said to me before, you're still quite new with this whole Her Little People, and you're only 6 months old now?
Yeah, the business is 6 months old, so I think particularly what we've both learned is navigating running a business. So creating and performing work is not necessarily the hardest part, or what we're learning from the most at the moment, but like neither of us have really run a business, particularly that of children's theatre. So there's a lot that comes with it that we'd never really thought would happen, but here we are.
Yeah, and definitely when you're front of house and behind the scenes, I mean, that's so much work for you guys. And I wanted to approach that sort of small business aspect of this. I mean, particularly I found in result of the pandemic, there's been this growth in independent businesses. I mean, across in England, but also on the island, and I'm seeing Instagram accounts coming up all the time of these new people starting up, and it'll be from, you know, you guys providing a service to people who are just got really into knitting in lockdown or something, and they've managed to start something up out of it. And I was actually reading an article. I mean, I mentioned this to you guys already before we went on recording. I was reading an article the other day where it was the former COD of Saatchi was talking about how much there's becoming this sort of rise in smaller independent businesses and the potential fall for the larger corporate agencies because of the level of agility and adaptability that smaller businesses have when you have this sort of smaller team, and there's less sort of regulations and stuff to go through because there's only so few of you, whereas these bigger agencies, and they've got to have so and so approve it, and so and so approve it, and so and so approve it, and then by the time it gets to market, people are just getting more bored, kind of thing. And I mean, even without COVID, there was this growth because of social media growing and getting this power over having rapid access to things, like really quick access, and you can find everything that you need instantly. But then you throw COVID into the mix, and that's emphasised even more, and everything's needing to shift so quickly. And I think that's probably to do with why independent businesses are growing, you know. Do you guys find that that's sort of applied to you? Do you find that your growth has been quite quick in terms of the response from the public?
Yeah, it's definitely we've definitely grown a lot very, very quickly.
I think a lot of our success is perhaps down to, and I suppose that is tied to COVID, the captive market that is currently on the island, in that effectively we are providing a service which is like very few other places in the world right now, that we are able to interact directly with audience members. So I think in terms of what the island's achieved, we are successful because one of the reasons is because of the footfall and the sheer amount of people still here during holiday periods and whatnot.
And this general kind of feeling of, I personally think that there's a feeling of wanting to do things on the Isle of Man because we can, because we realise how lucky we are, and actually, you do want to go to the theatre, or you do want to go out and see this fun day that's happening, or whatever it is in the community, not just our events, but across the board in the Isle of Man. There's a push to do that.
And picking up on your point before about businesses growing, like for example, you know, I've learned to knit and now I'm selling scarves, and I think it's an Instagram trend, or you know, social media certainly is helping that. But I wonder if there's been an increase in creativity and people having more time to connect with their inner creative and be able to invest in something that perhaps they've never really had the time to do before.
And I think that's so inspiring and great, and just like how wonderful to see in this time of, like, you know, uncertainty, whatever else, to actually have found the creativity and to be able to make it into a small business, or to be able to share it with other people is really magical and really great.
When you can't connect with anything else in the world physically, then, like, you know, so much is changing. To connect to your inner creative and connect to knitting needles and have that as a sense of security is super cool, and I think that's just wonderful. I hope that continues as we
so do I.
Go definitely through. I feel like it's a positive that's come both out of lockdown but also post-lockdown. I feel like lockdown sparked a whole lot of people to go, I'm going to get creative now, I've got this more time. But then when we came out of lockdown, there was a whole new group of people going, I can get out again, I can do stuff, I want to do stuff, and they want to go and learn more about our heritage and get outside
on the island.
But they also want to, both on island and across, they want to just be doing more, and I feel like people are finding this creativity in them both during and post lockdown, which is amazing to see that it can have such positive reactions. But I feel like in your case it's definitely helped to the whole heritage side of things, and so many more people are saying all the time, you know, I've learned so much more about our island since coming out of lockdown than I did before COVID even happened. I feel like because you guys take those stories, and you had like June and the Beanstalk at Christmas, which puts a Manx spin on things, as well as telling Manx stories, is is really good for right now in particular, you know.
That's so cool. Yeah, for sure. I think that we're really inspired by Manx stories, and I think what we were just saying before, like when I left the Isle of Man, I wasn't really in touch with all of these things, and since coming back, and it's not just because of lockdown and because of the reason why I came back, but actually just having this time as an adult now, looking really carefully at these stories and this culture, and actually taking it in, whereas before I was just a kid, almost I was itching to get off and to do whatever else, and now it's actually about taking it all in for how awesome it is.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of the positives that have come out of COVID, I wanted to talk about what's going to happen to the creative industry post-COVID when we do get there, because we will get there one day. You know, the longer that we are in this position where we're unable to operate within this industry as we usually would, we're seeing more and more sort of adapted methods to still sharing that creativity. So particularly in the UK, they're taking more actions than I think the Isle of Man is to have still operating creative industry, because they're still in lockdown. For example, like music acts like Justin Bieber and these other big names and stuff, they're doing like virtual concerts so that you can still watch them. I was watching something on the news that was about this production company called Doorstop Productions, and they basically, you can book for them to have actors come to your doorstep, and they'll perform a musical number or a number of musical numbers right outside your door, so that you can still have that experience. And I mean, Martin, for those who don't know, we have Martin with us, who was on episode 1 on the arts team doing the behind the scenes work. But you were telling me this morning about the thing on BBC that you're watching last night, and there was
like the musicals that got played.
Yeah, and that they were playing backwards, so the camera was at the back of the stage.
Really interesting. I thought that was the most interesting thing about the whole show.
Basically, they're in the seats, these actors, right? And they're performing, and there's lights sort of all over the seats that sort of
it was sick.
Space.
They turned the theatre around, and Martin, we're clearly on the same page, because as you were saying that, I was thinking very much about look at us in the noble suite. And I thought that was cool, as in that, you know, they've got to shake it up, and they've got, using a theatre in a different way is a benefit of something that's perhaps come out of this time that wouldn't have been there before.
Yeah, because they all had to be social distanced, so exactly. All the musicians that were this huge orchestra couldn't sit next to each other, so they were in the auditorium on seat E and F and whatever else as far away from each other as possible.
But
really interesting, but still doing it.
Doing it. So and I think as well, as a community, I mean, I suppose we kind of touched on this before, people wanting to learn more about the Isle of Man, but also across, there's just the sense of togetherness sort of growing as a community, and people wanting to enable these theatre companies and music acts to keep going, because we realise how much we really need creativity in the world, I think more so with the pandemic coming in, and sort of to help our mental health and stuff. So what do you guys think are the positives that can come out of the effects that COVID has had on the creative industry, whether that's the way that we operate and the way that businesses operate, or just how we respond to that as the community? How do you guys think that will reflect positively?
I think it's great to look at all the positives that are going to come out of it. I think we've got to kind of appreciate that theatre is not happening as well in the UK, and actually that's really, really sad. And there's we need to put the UK, it's awful. There's just nothing happening, and we've got so many friends that there's nothing happening, there's nothing going to happen, and I'm personally really worried for not only theatre itself, but Chloe and I both went through drama school training, and the thought of going to drama school now is just not a thing. And
it's just really difficult to feel for all these people who are in a position that we were in however many years ago that like wouldn't be able to go and study now, or wouldn't even be
What's
thinking
the
about
point?
that.
Because
Or even
you're
that are
training
just
for an industry that is non-existent.
Yeah, and all the people who are just regular working actors, that it's going to be really difficult to get a job even when things do happen, even though it was really hard to get a job in the first place. It's really sad.
I think because so many people are isolated at the moment, particularly in the UK. I'm a Pilates instructor as well, and I was speaking to a girl who attended one of my classes last week, and she'd been working from home, she'd just changed jobs, she's met all of her colleagues virtually, never seen them in real life. She was feeling super isolated, and she went to this one Pilates class, and she said she felt so much better.
On Zoom, yeah?
No. So she came to a real life class in the Isle of Man.
Oh, right.
But she'd been working online.
Oh, I see.
For many weeks, and it just gone through Christmas, and she'd felt so much better just by attending this one class. So putting that to the creative industries, I think if people realise that by attending they'll grab onto the chances to go to the theatre and interact far more with the arts, to give them that sense of community and togetherness that I think so many people will be craving. I think it's really tricky to speak about the UK from our perspective, because we left in March and we have
Nearly
not been
a year,
part of that really awful time, and I kind of don't feel in the right place to kind of comment on how they must be feeling, because we can't empathize to the extent that they are going through.
I think I really hope to see like almost like a new movement of creativity come out of this, all through like the 20th century. There was all these radical things happening every decade, and so many new movements coming out with art, music and theatre and all these different things, and I really hope there's like a new one that comes out post-COVID. Sort of people are realising that they've got to physically work differently, and that's sort of
I do think there is a sense of working differently and being adaptable. I think on a really general scale, I think everybody kind of feels like that, because we've had everything shook up and we've had to adapt. That I think that maybe we'll be more in tune to doing that,
looking at finding solutions more creatively than perhaps
then you can't do something, so I won't do it. Then how can we make it work?
I think there's a sense of hope, and I would love to share that sense of hope that things will be shaken up. I always think about the education system, and I find the structure of GCSEs and A-level is quite difficult to believe in, and I hope that perhaps COVID and everything's just obviously been shaken up, that it might bring this kind of renewed education system that I think would just be absolutely wonderful, and more focus on the arts and really making it so much more accessible for everyone. I know you mentioned the group of the theatre company going to people's doors. I think that's wonderful, but I would also hope that that's accessible for everyone, because that's an expensive thing, not everyone's going to be able to pay for a theatre production to come to their doorstep. But how amazing if that was a thing. And
also I think part of theatre is the community, and in the act of sharing that experience live with other people in the room and other people that you don't know, and that general feeling. And I think recorded theatre is amazing, and it's so great to be able to watch the National Theatre from our homes and things like that. But I do think there's something irreplaceable about being in a room with other people and sharing that community experience.
Yeah, that energy that you find from an actor directly onto an audience.
Yeah, and even from an audience member, just experiencing that. That's why we are desperate, myself and Michelle, at times, just like we want to go to the theatre, we want to go and watch whatever's on at the Gaiety or whatever's on at the Villa, because of that community experience. And I just really look forward to the day when the UK and everybody can do that again.
It sounds a bit ridiculous, but vibrations, like the sound vibrations that you would feel, from someone's energy, an actor directly onto an audience, or that we're lucky enough on the island to be able to go to a yoga class or something, and that shared community, shared like vibrations of being to being, you just don't get through live Zoom and so I hope that is the importance of that, and the what can come of that is what's the word? Rewarded is
What comes back after COVID?
applauded. I'd like to physicalise my sentence.
Could you do that in interpretive dance for
Doesn't work
everybody?
for a podcast, really.
I wish we filmed this now just for that little bit. Yeah, and I think what's been good as well, like the physical experience is obviously amazing, and I really love that that's been recognised, that you can't just imitate that if you're going to live stream something like the thing that you're telling us about last night, with the musical thing on BBC, and how they're not just trying to recreate the same thing and expect the same response, like they're putting a spin on it, and they're going, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to realise that we're in a different position, and we're actually going to capitalise on that and try and make that better, which I think is really good, because I feel like if they just kept trying to imitate what it should be, that's all it's going to feel like is what it should be. So I think it's really exciting to see that people are coming up with these new ideas for how to still get the same feeling from their audience, whether that's musical theatre or art, but in a totally different approach, which I think is a really good thing. So I know we've now talked about stuff that's happening on the Isle of Man, and we've talked about stuff that's happening across in the UK, and I wanted to highlight this for a moment. As I mentioned at the start of the podcast, I'm going to talk about this connection and why does it matter what's happening in the UK. Our borders are closed. I think we're on level 4 now, but non-residents can't come over, and so we really have this break from the UK right now that we've never felt before. We've always had some sort of connection in this ability to bring people from the UK over here, and the ability to send us across in ways that we can't now. So I wanted to talk at this point, both from your own point of views, why do you think it's important to keep that connection to the UK and sort of be mindful of what's going on across, and not just sort of take ourselves away and go, okay, well, we're doing fine, so let's just leave it there. And it's, why do you think we should keep that connection?
Well, I think it's really so many reasons, really. Obviously, the first being just empathy for other humans, and we all have friends in the UK. We all have friends further afield than the Isle of Man, and I think it's really important to stay in tune with that. I think that staying up to date with things that are happening really does influence us and how we live our lives, and just being able to be thankful and be really grateful about actually how awesome it is. And it is like, it's all these kind of cliches that everybody is saying at the minute, but we are so lucky here. Like, we genuinely are, and keeping in touch with what's happening just lets us really be thankful for what we've got, and make decisions with that in mind, knowing how lucky we are, and knowing kind of what the other side is.
I think it's really important to continue to connect with other people, and you can never achieve anything on your own. So it's all about teamwork. If the Isle of Man was to close its borders forever, I'm sure that we'd get to a point where we'd hit maximum of everything we could potentially achieve, and we need to be able to connect with the outside community and have an international outlook in order to make the Isle of Man as best it can be and continue to evolve. I think if we were to shut our borders forever, I would be really sad, because it just wouldn't be able to. The Isle of Man would just continue to be the same that it has been and always will be. If we weren't to keep this loving connection with our friends in the UK and further afield. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone knows that we should be mindful of what is going on all over the world, but I think particularly to remember that we are sort of part of the UK. I don't want to offend anyone listening who's more proudly Manx than I am, but we do have those connections, and I think we can learn a lot from the UK, and I think especially now the UK can learn a lot from us. So maybe in a way it's more important for us to be aware of what's happening over there. Now we're getting recognised more across for how well we're doing and stuff, and maybe we're almost seen as setting a standard. So I think we should, like you said, have that empathy for what's going on across, and be aware that we are in a position where we can help in ways that people across can't help each other. And, you know, maybe in our position we can reach out to our friends across, or just help more local businesses across, and things like that, I think would really help us to sort of keep that connection, but also celebrate what we can do here.
Definitely.
So,
I mean, people are isolated, you know, and so if we're not isolated and we're able to reach out, and albeit through Zoom or whatever medium, to have a connection to help people feeling isolated and alone, then I think that's our duty. I think it really is important to help others. That's just kind of general life advice.
Yeah.
Help others.
Yeah, definitely.
You guru, you. Can you quote her on that?
We've got Pilates, we've got mindfulness. The podcast's really taking a turn at this point.
No mistake.
So yeah, my final question for today to finish on for the podcast is, what can we actually be doing to support as Manx locals, as people outside of lockdown? What can we do to support our independent businesses over here and across in the UK? I know for me, I'm increasingly, when because I've been shopping more online than in person a lot over the last 12 months, but I've been turning more and more to like Instagram to find Manx inspiration, Instagram and Facebook, to find these new independent businesses coming up of locals on the island. But then I've been going a lot through Etsy to get my stuff across and trying to support local over there and staying mindful. You know, I'm from I was living in Leeds before I came here, so I'm always looking at the Yorkshire independent businesses. But what have you guys been doing, not just for people making and selling, but also, you know, services? How would you say that we can keep supporting local and independent?
I think kind of just what you said, in that, like, shopping local. I think it's about changing habits, and I'm kind of preaching to myself as much, and not to just order something off Amazon. But
I thought you were going to talk about strawberries then, Chloe. Let's leave the strawberries.
No, I just mean to support the people that you know. Obviously, you know, at Christmas it was a big push to shop local and support local when buying gifts and stuff, and I think that should remain throughout the year. I think support smaller companies, look out for them, and I think I think we've found a lot of support from bigger businesses actually that have helped us, and people like bigger theatre companies across in the UK giving us the time of day to educate us, to explain things to us. And I think for us, we've just been really happy to be like, we're new and we're sorry if we're naive about this, can you help?
Everything has to start from somewhere, hey? I think it's really important to remember that if you support Sheila, who's making scarves, actually in 10 years time Sheila might have a worldwide scarf business, and you have been a key part of Sheila's journey,
and we love Sheila,
and if you know, I'm proud to have supported Sheila, and I think that's really if anyone's out there called Sheila, I will buy a scarf from you. Absolutely, and if we had a really lovely example of someone who couldn't attend our panto this year, and they reached out to us and they said, I want to buy pay for a donation and pay for the what the tickets would have cost if we'd come to see it. And what a lovely thing to do, just because she wanted to support small businesses, and she empathised how it is to start off in business, particularly in the arts. And that's, you know, super cool. Let's do it. Let's support local. Let's buy Manx food. And Martin, I'm
strawberries.
Sure, in June. I'm sure you'll know the quote. Is it £1 that you spend in the Manx economy will 183 comes back,
and I'm the guru.
Something like that. That's awesome, isn't it?
That's amazing.
If you get one of them grey canvas bags that were sold at the Isle Food and Drink Festival, you'll never forget such a quote.
I love that you mentioned as well, Chloe, that you said you're preaching to yourself, and I think you know, it's so we're all learning. Like, I'm the exact same as well, and I was awful for just going straight to Amazon or something
it's
like that.
easy, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
when you just put in the search bar and everything's there, and we're all, and it takes longer to find independent businesses and newer startups and stuff. So it's not that easy. I feel like sometimes you can make it sound like it's easy, and that you can it'll just pop up on your social media or something, and it won't. And don't let it take over your life to try and, don't feel guilty if you've went and bought something off Amazon once in a while or something like that. And we're all trying to be more mindful of climate change in the same way, and sort of being more aware of our environment and stuff, and we're all sort of learning in this process, but I think everyone's working together. That's the whole point. That's why we're trying to support more local.
And I think I think when you've kind of shifted your mindset a little bit to do that, I think then you kind of notice more, and you notice the smaller shops that maybe you wouldn't have seen before, or you notice that your cousin on Instagram has actually got something really nice that you'd like to buy.
There was a lovely wee quote at Christmas that was going around that was every time you buy something from a small business, they'll do a little what you'll get, and they'll be doing a little jig, for every sale that you get. And it's so not wrong. We had all of our ticket sales coming through on our phone. We've got really obsessed with checking, who's bought a ticket and how long ago. And I'm like, Chloe, 4 more have been bought, and literally another jig then comes out. And it's so satisfying, and
the happiness that actually comes from
you feel good by supporting a local business, and obviously the local business is buzzing about it, and if we can keep spreading this lovely positive energy and empathy and generosity, what a lovely little world we'd live in.
Preach.
Definitely. So if you know of any independent businesses out there, to all our listeners, or services or new startups, just spread the word, tell all your friends about it. Even if you heard it and you thought, I do not want to buy what they're selling, just tell people anyway. Because they might want to.
Share it. Like it.
Exactly. So I think that's pretty much it for today. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been so lovely to talk to you both. Is there anything that you want to share with us before we go? I know that you've got exciting plans.
Yes, please. Can we do a big old plug?
Absolutely.
So we are Hello Little People. We produce children's theatre on the Isle of Man, and you can find out loads more about us at hellolittlepeople.com. And we're really excited to be producing a Island First. It's an absolute children's classic. We've been given expressed permission by the Dole estate. It's taken many a email, and
exclusively.
We're really excited to be producing the Twits this April. At the Gaiety Theatre for 3 days, 5 performances. It's the 2 of us performing a 7-person show, so that is going to be exciting.
Doesn't make you want to buy a ticket.
Just to see how that goes. I mean,
and being transformed into a Twit.
Yes, I can't wait to be Mr. Twit.
Yes.
And I'm Mrs. Twit.
So make sure you get out and get your tickets to go and see the Twits. It sounds like it's going to be an amazing show, and definitely not one that you want to miss. And that wraps everything up for today. A couple notes to our listeners from us here at the Arts Council that our funding round is still open, but only for a few more days. So make sure you get your application in before the closing date, which is midnight on Friday the 12th of Feb. Our Literary Lockdown project was an amazing success. Thank you to everyone that sent in pieces of creative writing, and all 28 spots for the work to be shown on our social media have now been filled, so we are not accepting any more submissions for that specifically. However, all submissions, including those that we didn't get a chance to share, will be going in the Manx National Heritage Collecting COVID Isle of Man archive. That was such a mouthful. So if you have a piece of creative writing that you made in response to any of our prompts, please continue to send them our way this month for inclusion in the Manx National Heritage Archive. And the final note, I promise, you may have seen our announcement on social media that we are publishing an Isle of Man Arts Council collaborative artist book. I'm so full of mouthfuls this afternoon. So this book and the podcast are the 2 projects that I will be leading during my internship, and I am beyond excited that they are both now out in the open. The collaborative artist book titled Ellen, which is the Manx word for art, is dedicated to contemporary fine art by our finest local artists, and there is an open call for submissions for all members of the public to participate. If you have an artwork that you want to be shown professionally in an exhibition or to be included in the book, you do get both, please head over to our socials, Isle of Man Arts Council, or head to islemarts.com, and information regarding everything I've mentioned will be on the website and on our socials. So thank you again to Chloe and Michelle from Hello Little People who joined me today, and thank you to everyone who joined to listen. See you next episode.